On this episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, Joe Brady, you're fired. Yeah, folks, Joe Brady, Offensive Coordinator, Carolina Panthers, has been relieved of his duties by Matt Rule. Dave Tepper involved? Maybe. Probably Rule trying to save his job. Before we get into today's video, make sure you subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Pound that like button. Hit that bell notification to be notified of future videos like this on the Carolina Panthers. And hey, folks, leave me some comments. I sure do love the dialogue. All right, folks, it's official. I thought maybe it would happen at the end of the year. But Joe Brady has been relieved of his duties. And in the light of Panthers, I tell you what, man, if anything you can say about this team at 5-7, we start out 3-0, things look good. You know, we draft a long snapper. We had offensive linemen on the board. We bring in quarterback Sam Darnold. You know, do all kinds of moves. You know, the C.J. Henderson trade, acquiring Stephon Gilmore, bringing back Cam Newton, and now, you know, we're making headlines on our bye week, right during the start of games when things are going on in week 13, by releasing Joe Brady from his duties. Now, two ways to look at it. Joe Brady didn't bring much to the table, folks. Now, I say that last year, you know, you had Teddy Bridgewater putting up some incredible numbers. You know, you had Curtis Samuel here who had an excellent year. DJ Moore had a great year. And Robbie Anderson. And, you know, with Christian McCaffrey out, it looked promising on offense. And Brady seemed to maybe, you know, kind of put it on Bridgewater's shoulder while we couldn't get between the 20s and score and do well. But, you know, doesn't it kind of look ironic when Bridgewater leaves? He talked about him not practicing a red zone drill or 2-minute drill. And, you know, we don't bring in the offensive linemen that we need, thinking we're good, and things have just fallen apart. You know, and a lot of defensively we're falling apart, but at one time or another, Joe Brady has just looked very, very vanilla with this offense. It's predictable. Receivers have I almost feel like they're frustrated because you don't see the routes being there. The quarterback play has been horrendous. Really, the offensive line play at times has been terrible. And there's been times, yes, the defense has let the offense down, not getting the ball back or not being able to make a stop. Now, what it reeks to me of Joe Brady being fired, relieved of his duties by Matt Rule, is this like Matt Rule's last stand because he could lose his job? Now, I for one feel that regardless of what I might think or how I might feel, I was a big Matt Rule supporter, and it didn't take very long, probably the Philadelphia game, when I started saying this isn't good. Something smells wrong. And it's been bad ever since. The Giants lost, Minnesota game to a point, the Washington game, and this past game with Miami. Team has not looked well, has not played well, has not been up to play, has not played with any heart. Couldn't say that about them last year. I really felt good about the coaching staff. Like, man, these players, we've got a less than desirable team, and they're playing for the coaches, and they're building something. It's totally done a 180 this year. It's kind of strange. I just haven't seen, even if we win another game and we end up 6-11, we're 5-11 last year, or we end up winning 2, I just feel like we're just not we had a plan last year. Doesn't look that way this year. I could see Matt Rule losing his job after this year. I do think Tepper will give him one more just because, you know, Tepper did that with Ron. He did it, kind of kept Hurney on too long. I think he's probably behind closed doors meeting with Federer saying, you know, we'll give Rule another shot. If it doesn't work, have somebody in mind, preferably someone who is NFL ready, whether it's a former head coach or whether there's a guy who's played his dues in the trenches offensively or defensively in the NFL. You know, a lot of people looked at Doug Peterson. I don't know. But Matt Rule this year really has looked lost and out of place, and like he's been ran over, folks. It's just like the guy has been asleep, and somebody's woke him up at 3 a.m. and told him time to go to work with a bugle in his ear. He looks lost. Phil Snow at times has not prepared this defense. I think moving Chin was a mistake. And I wouldn't have said that before, but it just looks apparent. It definitely looks. And now Fitter's going to take a little blame too because of some of the free agent picks on the offensive line, a couple of draft picks, taking the long snapper over taking a guy like Smith from Tennessee that Kansas City drafted, Trey Smith on the offensive line. But just some moves, man, like C.J. Henderson, is that going to pay off? Or Stephon Gilmore, or are we going to get anything out of them? We're just losing period for a draft pick. The Patriots actually fleece us. But this really boils down to I'm worried the coaches that we have this college mentality and they're not ready for the pro game. Rules probably bought themselves some time. Something had to be done. I don't expect bringing in, the Sean Ryan guy, whoever's going to be the offensive coordinator now, guy getting promoted from within, whether he was the quarterback's coach or whatever he was. I don't know how much of a difference it can make. Maybe that guy's got a pretty good playbook. Maybe he's got a little bit of trickery up his sleeves. Maybe it can give a little oomph to the offense and come up with something with Cam back there. If Cam's going to still be the starter after this past week, come up with something that's going to, poor Cam, think about it, folks. He goes over and he's Joe Brady a few weeks, and now, boom, you got this other guy in there calling plays and whatever his playbook might be. It's going to be very interesting to see how this works. I don't think it's going to get much better. And now you're at the meat and potatoes of the schedule because, okay, New Orleans is 5-7. We're 5-7. Atlanta's 5-7. Nobody's going to catch Tampa. Tampa's out there like at 9-3. It's not going to happen. But it would be kind of nice, and a lot of people might not agree. You think, okay, if we finish last, we'll get a better draft pick. I'm tired of that. If we can finish second in the division, even if it's by one game, it's progress. And we've got a shot at sweeping Atlanta. Hell, in 3 weeks, we got a shot at sweeping New Orleans. I say 3 weeks, it might be 4. But if we can sweep Atlanta and New Orleans, hey, maybe we'll split with Tampa. Maybe we can get a split. I'm just saying. I just have a really hard time thinking that we're going to do better than split with Tampa, or that we're going to have a shot going at cold Buffalo in December and winning that game. Our best chances of winning is beating Atlanta, and they might beat us. To me, it's 50-50 right now. Or beat New Orleans in New Orleans after we beat them earlier in the year at home. You don't think that Sean Payton ain't going to want to, beat us, pay us back for that loss that we gave him? Well, right now, Atlanta and New Orleans appear to be our two best chances at winning. And, the Buffalo game was going to be very difficult. And even trying, like I said, to muster 1 out of 2 against Tampa. We need to catch it early because the second game, maybe Tampa rests some players. Maybe we'll get lucky. I don't know. But Joe Brady had to go. And that's why I did my best Donald Trump from The Apprentice. You're fired. Because Joe Brady needed to be fired. He needs to take his 1-page play sheet and carry his ass back to college football. Maybe he can get a head coaching gig, but I doubt it. He'll land a job. But man, this is Matt Rule's last stand because these last 5 games, he needs to be 500. He needs to win 3 of those 5. If he goes 2-3 and we finish 7-10, doesn't look good. If he can win 3 and go 8-9, or maybe 9-8, forget 4-1, hey, that's pretty impressive. But I'm going to have a hard time for him winning more than 2 of these last 5. Well, you never know. But Joe Brady had to go. And, if Matt Rule ever leaves, that's a package deal with him and Phil Snow. They're going together. But in my opinion, it smells of desperation. Matt Rule knows he's on the hot seat. Tepper probably he's got his MLS team starting here, in another couple of months. And he's got to keep his concentration on that. And he's got his NFL team that really is stinking up the league. I mean, the Hornets are playing not bad basketball. And the Hurricanes are starting out blazing hot. And, you look at the MLS team getting ready to start, and there's no baseball here. The team right now that's just sucking in desperation is the Panthers. And that's the one team that's carried the most fan support in the state, if you ask me. Although diehard Hurricane fans, we know, because I'm one of them. But folks, like I've said all in this episode, Joe Brady had to go. I thought he would have been fired the day after the last game of the season, but Matt Rule feels the heat. And now these last 5 games, pay attention to Matt Rule's sideline antics. Pay attention to his demeanor. Watch his press conferences. Let's see how the in-game coaching is at halftime. Oh, this is something that's been so sorely missed throughout this organization. Our head coaches just do not game plan well in-game. Halftime adjustments. Just don't. Or coming off a bye week. That's something Ron Rivera used to really suck at. And let's see how Matt Rule does coming off the bye. But Joe Brady, for a shiny toy we brought in, it sure was dull as a butter knife. Okay, folks, what do you think of today's video? Do you think Joe Brady should have made it to the end of the year? Or do you think we really waited too late and letting Joe Brady go by now? What about Matt Rule? Do you think he's out the door next? Do you think we should give him one more year? And what about David Tepper? A lot of people think he should have pulled the plug on a lot of this earlier. But you think maybe he's done this a little too often, too much, getting rid of Bridgewater and other things, that maybe he needs to be a little bit more patient? Leave me some comments. I love the dialogue. Pound that like button. Hit that bell notification to be notified of future videos like this on the Panthers. And by all means, folks, it's free. Subscribe. Help Uncle Chucky out. We'll see you next time on another episode of